Shout out to G-Man Boxing. Where's the piss bottle? It's over there.
Alright people, so a bit of breaking news recently came in the last half hour, being reported here by Dan Raphael on Twitter. We all know that Luis Ortiz, following on from his win the weekend over Charles Martin, was then ordered to face Filip Hrgovic as a final eliminator for the IBF title, a crack at the IBF title. Now, he turned down that on the basis of an injury. Make what you want to say about that. But Joseph Parker was next in line, who the IBF were apparently going to be reaching out to make this fight. Well, according to Dan Raphael, Joseph Parker has rejected the IBF final eliminator against Filip Hrgovic. According to Team Hrgovic, they will go down the IBF rankings, trying to find someone who will accept it. Just make him mandatory. Just make him mandatory at this stage. I mean, this has happened before. Obviously, Michael Hunter was meant to... Well, I think they were ordered to fight early enough last year. Didn't happen. Hunter went to Triller instead. Took fights with Jerry Forrest and what was the guy's name? Mike Wilson. Hrgovic now, 2 people ordered, both rejected. I mean, I was watching Hatman's video on Hrgovic, and he's spot on in his assessment what Eddie Hearn and Saraland need to do. That they really need to be willing to make an investment in Hrgovic, take a hit on a show with Hrgovic in order to get one of these guys in the ring with him. Because Michael Hunter, basically, pre-Hrgovic was saying, he'd fight anyone in the division. I think he even said he'd fight some people for free. And then when the money and the purse bids were put up for Hrgovic, he would have been getting a couple of $100,000. And I'm sure he's made probably more than that with those 2 joke fights on Twitter. Although the Jerry Forrest fight wasn't a joke fight, but you know what I mean. In terms of fighting subpar opposition, the Jerry Forrest fight was close, very close. He was lucky in that fight, Michael Hunter. He probably got a lot more money for those 2 fights than he would have got for fighting Filip Hrgovic, who was very risky. I think with Hrgovic, as Hatman has said, and I feel this as well, it's not necessarily the fact that he's a devastating puncher. He could definitely punch. It's not the fact that he's a fearful kind of fighter. It's not that. It's risk reward. I mean, you beat Filip Hrgovic, yes, you'll get a crack at the IBF title. That's held up now at the minute with AJ Usyk and potentially Fury, and Usyk or Joshua the winner after that. So it could be a while before you get that. At the end of the day, would you get much credit beating Filip Hrgovic? I know he's done a lot of good things in the amateurs. When you look at his career, his resume in a nutshell, he turned pro 2017. Zabano Love, Pavel Saurst, Tom Little, Sean Turner. That's actually, for your first 5 fights, or 4 fights, I mean, Pavel Saurst only fought Huey Fury in 2020. It's not horrible. Amir Mansour, Kevin Johnson, Gregory Corbin, Eric Molina, Riddell Broker. That was a horrible. He was in terrible shape in that fight. It's, not the most star-studded resume you'd ever see, but for someone, especially the early on, I mean, he was fighting better opposition in his first 5 fights than he was against this Radonic guy. He was awful. When he fought that Amir Akamaktiv guy, I think is how you pronounce the guy's name, looking very fleshy in some of them fights. In fact, actually, when you look at it when he was fighting, guys like Amir Mansour in the low 230s, when he fought Sean Turner, he was in the 220s, in the high 240s for these fights. So you can really see the level of opposition has dropped. Therefore, Hrgovic, I don't think he's trained as hard, which is why he's coming in a bit heavier. But look, let's look down the IBF rankings. So they haven't updated them fully yet. So Charles Martin is still ranked here at number 1. I would imagine that will get updated soon enough. So Charles Martin, no. Joseph Parker, no. Joshua, no. Next in line would be Tony Yoka. Now, I know these guys have fought in the amateurs. Tony Yoka, he got the better of them the last time they fought as an amateur. Tony Yoka's been saying that he wants big fights in 2022. So potentially Tony Yoka, potentially. Would I expect that fight to happen? Highly unlikely. Joe Joyce is number 1 with the WBO and mandatory with them, so he's at number 6. I don't know how they work it out that Yoka's ahead of Joe Joyce. I don't know how they work that out, but look, say la vie. Joe Joyce, no, not going to happen. Ajay Kabayel, when's the last time he fought? Didn't he fight Rudenko in 2020? But he's been inactive since then. Murat Gassiev, is in at number 8. That's interesting. Murat Gassiev, a heavyweight against Filip Hrgovic. That could be a good little fight now. Murat Gassiev, I'm going to hazard a guess and say that if they offered Murat Gassiev that fight, and it was a decent enough payday, he'd take that. I reckon he might. And that might be a good little, just stylistically, Gassiev versus Hrgovic, that might be a good little fight. Ortiz, Ruiz, no. I can't see any Ruiz getting offered that. Dempsey, McKeenan, can't see that. Zili Zhang, why is he ranked? How is he ranked above? He's ranked above Hughie Fury and Martin Bacoli. Okay, so when I look down this, I would say the most likely candidates would be Yoka at a push, Ajay Kabayel again at a push, and Murat Gassiev. I would say, if you wanted my opinion, I'd say Gassiev likelihood would be the most likely, I would imagine, out of those names. Gassiev potentially, but at the end of the day, like, we've gone through this before already last year. They want to look down the rankings, I get that, but like at this stage now, if people just make it mandatory. As for Joseph Parker, am I surprised? Not particularly. I was talking to a mate of mine. He actually helps me. He helps me with the thumbnails, does the thumbnails for me. And me and him were both talking about this when, the subject came up. And it's an interesting one because we were both thinking the same thing. Dylan White, obviously with this fight with Tyson Fury, whenever it gets mandated, alright, it's still got a few kind of things to get through. Don't know if it's going to happen or not because with the percentage splits and purse bids, etc., arbitrations and stuff like that. So this fight could get dragged out. Might not happen at all, who knows. Potentially, if this fight doesn't happen, is Eddie Hearn and Dylan White maybe looking at doing a Joseph Parker rematch as a contingency plan? Because that fight is still a good fight. It's a big money fight. And you got to look at it from Dylan White's point of view, right? Imagine Dylan White and Tyson Fury doesn't happen, alright, and Dylan White wants to go out and have a fight. Would it make much sense for him to fight Michael Hunter or Otto Wallin in fights that he could potentially lose? Okay? Or would it make more sense from a financial point of view to fight Joseph Parker? Now you might say, but gee, he almost lost the Joseph Parker fight the first time around, and you're saying he might lose to Wallin and Hunter? Yes, but look at it like this. If he fights Joseph Parker, and this is all ifs, right? I'm just speculating, could be completely off with this. If he fights Joseph Parker, again, provided, say, the Fury, hypothetically, if the Fury fight doesn't happen, big money fight for both guys, do it in, an arena like the O2 here in the UK, right? And if Dylan White loses, there's trilogy. More money. Eddie Hearn, Dylan White. Yes, I'm sure Dylan White specifically wants his world title shot, but you'd say someone like Eddie Hearn, a Parker trilogy fight, if they have a second fight and it's as good as the first one, Eddie Hearn wouldn't stiff his nose up at that. He'd be thinking, you know what, we're making bags here. We're making absolute bags here. And look, Parker against Hrgovic, I would have given Parker, I probably would have favoured Parker in that fight, to be honest with you, just based on, styles and the way Parker has been looking under Andy Lee lately. I probably would have favoured him slightly against Hrgovic, and the way Hrgovic's been looking lately, maybe he would have gained himself up or geared himself up better against Parker. I don't know, ain't gonna happen. But there's obviously more money to be had in going down kind of maybe them avenues as opposed to going down the Hrgovic road. I think if they really want to get these guys in with Hrgovic, the checkbook's going to have to open, and if needs be, take a hit in a couple of shows. If it helps Hrgovic get these names, and it helps him be mandated, get put into positions where he's mandated to fight these names, then I think that maybe that's the only thing for it. But yeah, just a quick video. Hadn't planned on doing a video until I seen that, and yeah, Hrgovic against Parker, not going to happen. Out of the three names, the names in the rankings I read there, Yoka potentially, obviously Kabayel, but I don't know what his story is with him. He's not been very active lately. And Gassiev, I would say Gassiev is the most likely, potentially most likely. But yeah, that's the crack with Hrgovic. It's the story with him. So we'll have to wait and see. We'll have to watch this space, see what Eddie Hearn and Sutherland do, see what happens with Joseph Parker next. I would say watch the space with the Dylan White Fury situation, because that wouldn't, it could be a case of maybe, like I said it before, I'll say it again, you never know, they might make Fury franchise champion. If they do that, make Dylan White regular champion. They're probably mandating to fight Wilder, to be fair, but if the Wilder fight for whatever reason doesn't happen, or Dylan White goes another avenue, financially I could see Hearn and Dylan White maybe looking at Parker and saying, do you know what, we money to be made here. So, let me know. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that video. If you could, smash the like button, let me know your thoughts in the comments section. I'd be very interested to know what you guys think of the rankings that I just read. They probably haven't been fully updated yet, because they couldn't get the rankings for December, so they're probably not fully up to speed, the IBF rankings. But let me know train of thought on the situation with Hrgovic and Parker. Leave it in the comments section. Hope you enjoyed it. Peace.